excited to introduce Michelle Chiantera. She is the Chief Marketing Officer at Corel Corporation. She's really going to lead the conversation today, and I'll jump back in a little while, and we can definitely dig into some questions together as a group. So Michelle, we're excited to have you here.
Hi, Miles. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here with all of you today, and it's fun looking to see where everybody's coming in from. I, Miles, am right over the border in New York. I actually live in upstate New York, and as the crow flies, if you just go right across the lake, it's probably an hour and a half, but you got to drive to get all the way around the lake to get to Toronto. So same weather here. So awesome. So let me start first by just sharing a little bit about myself so you can learn about my history, where I've been, and ultimately where I'm headed in this adventure at Corel. So I joined Corel, it's probably now been 11 months or so. And it was a really deliberate move for me as it relates to a career shift. I really wanted to get into a smaller company where I could see my impact and make impact, and of course, leveraging data to do that. I've got over 25 years of marketing experience. I've spent the majority of my career in tech and applications. I actually spent 21 years at Cisco. And that was the last gig I had before I came to Corel. My marketing expertise, I spent quite a bit of time in partner marketing and in indirect channel marketing, which for those of you that are in tech, that is definitely the primary way a lot of tech companies go to market. My superpower, it's the topic we're going to talk about today. It's really leveraging data to drive impact and get aligned with the business. Marketing is such a core part of what we do today, and it's critical that marketing stays connected to all aspects of the business. So what do I think the greatest asset for a marketer is? It's data. We truly have a massive opportunity to leverage data in all its forms to show our impact. With this notion of digitization, the game changed, and marketers now have a tremendous amount of power and have the ability to shape and influence the company as a whole. So let's jump in. So I am a firm believer that anything that has to do with data and insights, it has to be connected to a solid plan. And I'll share a story with you that was fairly early in my career where I learned the importance of being able to articulate the plan that I'm executing and ensure that I'm leveraging data to support it. Ironically enough, Cisco had made a claim that all voice was going to go over IP. This is how long ago it was. And I was actually one of the marketing managers working on some of the go-to-market initiatives to bring that to ground. And I had the opportunity to meet with one of our senior leaders to go through the plan and share what we'd be doing from a marketing perspective. And I started out the conversation talking about how we were going to build a landing page on our website. We were going to drive customers via telemarketing to the website to see what we have to offer around voice over IP, generate leads, and pass it to our top 15 partners. I immediately jumped into the tactics. And when I got done with my presentation, the individual that was on the other end of the call said, "My God, Michelle, you've really got to be a bit more strategic, and you've got to be a bit more grounded into what's happening in the business." And I walked away from that feeling a little bit defeated because I had thought I did a good job of sharing my overall marketing plan. So I went back and I had a conversation with my then boss, who probably was one of the most influential bosses I had while I was at Cisco. And she said, "You need to change the narrative. The way you're communicating, you need to ground it in data and in outcomes. You can still talk about your marketing plan, but you need to change the dialogue." So I go back, I rework my slides, and I asked this individual if I can get more time on his calendar so I could talk through the plan. And I started out the conversation with, the voice over IP market is X amount in size. Cisco is targeting to capture X percent of share, and we're going to go through a set of indirect selling motions. Our partners that are currently in the voice space where they're selling PBXs and they're used to marketing offers like this on a monthly basis, right? It's a billing mechanism versus buy hardware, put it in and leave. And when I up-leveled the game and started talking about it as it relates to what it is we're trying to accomplish in the business and the goals that we're trying to achieve, it was a game changer for me. And I'm not going to repeat these, but this is basically, I till this day still use these 6 steps as I'm thinking through how I'm going to articulate it. And it is all about grounding in the business, being really clear on who you're talking to and how. And then this notion of rationalized goals, right? It has to be aligned to what the business is looking for. You know, as an example, if marketing says, and I've had this happen more often than I'd like, if marketing says, oh, we're generating a ton of leads in voice over IP as an example, and the business is declining, that story is going to fall flat. So really rationalizing it and understand how to communicate it, frame it in ways that respective business stakeholder is going to want to get the information versus talking in marketing language, making sure the taxonomy is aligned with how that portion of the business actually speaks. So what are some of the things that I think are really important to measure? And I'm going to be really candid here. The first one's hard. The first one is difficult to measure, especially when you go through an indirect selling model. One part of Corel's business is through e-commerce, where it's literally click an ad, put it in a cart, customer buys, we can report on that. But when you have more complex solutions that you sell, sometimes you can't get to that one-to-one. But it's really important that you get as close to the pin as possible, because in the end, marketing is a cost of business, and we want to demonstrate that we are driving revenue impact. Also need to be looking at metrics that give you insight into the business. I'll go back to this idea of digitization and how marketing has been able to flourish as a result of it. Just going out and looking at social sentiment. What are your customers saying about you on social channels? When I was at Cisco, this was actually something that I delivered on a quarterly basis. We did an analysis of what customers were saying. We drove some conclusions as a result of it, and we used it to shape the plan. And that idea of customer sentiment for that particular sales leader that I worked with that time was way more important for him to understand that than just the number of leads that I'm generating. So it's definitely about revenue, but there are so many ways, because we have all these digital channels, that we can really understand our customers. So as I said, it's super important to be aligned with the business, and you've got to build those cross-departmental relationships. This is something that I believe marketers need to do a better job of. Marketing can oftentimes not have a seat at the table, and that puts us at a massive disadvantage because of the role that we play in today's day and age. So some of the ways that I've looked at how I can approach this is anytime I'm working cross-functionally with one of the leadership team members, the CEO, the CFO, the CRO, the CTO, I'm always asking them, what are your top 3 business challenges? If I can understand what their top 3 business challenges are, I can frame the conversation so the work that we're doing today aligns to what keeps them up at night. And I do this as part of a regular cadence of communications where I'll just ask in advance before we're going to get on a call, hey, what's top of mind for you right now? What's the 1 to 2 things that you need to focus on? You also need to know their love language. I said earlier, this notion of taxonomy is really, really critical. And I'll share a little story. One of the roles that I took on at Cisco, I was leading the Americas top to bottom for all of marketing. And it was one of our largest businesses. And when I came into the role, I asked, obviously, what are some of your big challenges? And the current sales leader at that time said, gosh, Michelle, I just wish that marketing and sales could have the same language. Like when I talk to people on your Now team, they're saying things like, and by the way, things have evolved now. They're saying things like omni-channel and customer journeys and personas and content strategy. And he's like, we're selling stuff out here. Talk to me in the language that I'm going to understand. And once once you get to know some of these stakeholders, you'll absolutely learn their language and use that as it relates to any dialogue you're having versus bringing the marketing speak. Now, I work for a CEO right now that actually has marketing speak, so it makes my position a little bit easier. But I'm having to adjust and tweak as I talk to other stakeholders across the business. And the last point that I'll make is have a point of view. Like I've seen many marketers put themselves in situations where they kind of wait to see, what's sales going to go do, and then I'll tie my marketing plan to it. You need to have a point of view, and it's got to be backed in data, and that's going to help you have that more elevated conversation with your stakeholders. All right, so who do I think is the most important? Who needs to know? Who do you need to be having conversations with? Well, it's the C-suite. And as it relates to the C-suite, I prioritize it in 3 ways. Finance is my number 1 business stakeholder. Why? Because finance needs to know what I'm doing and how I'm driving impact, so I don't have to justify every single move that I make. These are the guys that are going to allocate the money. And I make it a point on a regular basis to keep finance informed. I might not always have revenue to share. I might be sharing other marketing metrics, but I'm constantly sharing with them the impact that we're making, because they ultimately own the keys to the budget. The second is sales. I actually would probably put sales and engineering on the same playing field. As it relates to sales, of course, our job is to drive demand and make customers really, really happy and help them be more productive, help them move deals through the funnel faster. And I am, on a weekly basis, I am forecasting and reporting what I am generating from an MQL perspective. So I hold myself and my team accountable, and I want to talk that sales language as it relates to how they forecast their business. And then on the engineering product management side, we have a wealth of information in marketing to be able to help engineering and product management shape the future of our products. That we hear things that customers say, whether it's in social channels or digital channels, or you're at a physical event, where they're giving us feedback on how we can deliver a better outcome for their business. This is something that we're constantly keeping the pulse on, whether it's formally or informally. And I'm sending on an ongoing basis, hey, engineering, we should be thinking about this or that feature, or we need to establish this partnership. And this has really helped me to have that proximity and be a part of the decision-making at the C-suite level. And then the last thing I'll say is you need to build this into the conversation you're having with your organization. Anytime I have an all hands, I always start by grounding us in the business. Here's where we're at from a performance point of view. Here's what we have to look ahead of us. And then here's the impact that we're making. And it's really about building that culture of a data-driven marketing organization. So with some of the data that I share, as I had said, my number 1 priority for finance is revenue. I don't always have that to share. So I make sure that I'm showing any leading and lagging indicators. Hey, we're seeing our product trends dip online. Could there be an impact on future sales? Obviously, pipeline is a big one. And as I said, customer sentiment. So these sales guys know and gals know what's actually happening on the ground. I talked about customer feedback. I've also got to share on a monthly basis to our board. That's a little bit of a different conversation. I definitely have some look back data that allows us to just get them educated on performance, but I'm very much looking forward. Like I'm seeing these trends and I see 2 to 3 months out that XYZ is going to happen. And then investors, right, all day long, it's sharing everything we can to show the impact that they're making. But I really believe that this can't be a moment in time. It can't be, oh, I've got to attend this quarterly business review, or I've got a board meeting coming up. On an ongoing basis, share with your entire organization they need to see this data and hear the language on a weekly, monthly, and a quarterly basis. So what are some of the things that I look at? And again, going back to revenue is the best that we can share, but as we know, that's not always the case. So I look at three things, and this is what I report on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. The first is scale. And what do I mean by that? We set MQL goals for each of our product lines based on history and then based on some form of a lift. So if sales gets a quota increase of 10%, marketing gets a quota increase. And we measure the volume of MQLs that we're hitting against the goals that we set. The second is we look at efficiency. So one of the leading indicators or lagging indicators is this notion of conversion. How quickly do we see a lead go from being engaged to an MQL to an SQL to actually resulting in closed business? Well, if we see it move through without any headwinds, we're probably doing something right from a marketing perspective. If we see that there's some obstacles along the way, it allows us to rethink, hey, maybe we need to adjust the offer or change this or that if it's not moving from MQL to SQL, or there's lead quality issues. So this is some of the leading and lagging indicators that we look at. And then last but not least, we measure impact, and that's the pipeline that we generate against the sales goals that we are looking to achieve. So I also think that qualitative data is equally as important, and that goes to some of the things that I've referenced around sentiment and seeing digital behavior or seeing how customers are engaging or not engaging. And one of the things that we try to do in our planning cycle is we always bring the voice of the customer in the room. And I say this a lot at Corel, and I said it at Cisco. There's no lack of opinions in a company about its product set, about its go-to-market motion. There are plenty of opinions. But if we lead with opinions and we don't lead with the customer mindset, and that requires us to look at data, then we become very internal focused. So looking at both the quantitative and the qualitative data to actually plan. So how we set goals, how we define the plan, how we execute, how it's performing through the process, and then ultimately how we report. And this customer first mindset, it's always putting the customer at the center. And you guys have probably heard this before. Jeff Bezos has a chair in a conference room when there's meetings going on, and that chair's empty because that's the customer, and it has to be represented in the room. And I think this is where marketing plays a massive role in having a lead in that customer first mindset. So how does this all come to life? I really believe in creating a culture of optimization. We need to make data readily available and empower people to actually be analysts. Like there's nothing more boring than when somebody just reports the news, right? Well, this is our marketing results for this month. Use more of an analytical lens to say, oh, hey, we're seeing these trends, or we're seeing a dip here or an increase there, and this is how we think it'll play out. Really being able to analyze it and derive insights from the data is critical. When using data, you got to move quickly. Like, data is only as good as it is in that moment. Some people are uncomfortable when things aren't performing, and they're basically kind of, oh, don't share that, because if we're not doing the right thing, there could be an issue. Actually, it's quite the opposite. If you are looking at the data and you move quickly and change it, I mean, that's the best kind of optimization you can do. And I said this already, I use facts and figures, not opinions, to drive change. I see so much of this opinion thing going on at any company I've worked for. And I think that it slows us down, and you can't argue with facts and figures. Okay, so let's wrap it up, and I'll just leave you with a few insights, and then we can open it up to questions or comments. So what are some of the things you can do to connect it to the business? Definitely show how marketing is interacting and engaging with accounts. Like I said, now customers leave digital footprints all over your web property. I mean, the new place is the website, right? We used to be able to put footprints in an office and go talk to customers. Today, it's all about looking at their behavior, because it's going to be an indicator of what you can do and they will do in the future. Share information on what you're seeing in your marketing initiatives. We do learn a lot from how prospects and customers behave, and how can you align that to put that against a competitive slant. It's far more valuable for a marketer to be able to proactively go against the competition versus reactively. Use data to figure out what accounts are showing the most opportunity for future sales. You can look at historical sales, and you can find these are the top 3 verticals in this particular geography, and design marketing programs and initiatives around that. I mean, that's just a quick look back. Constantly share your plan. It's so important that the business understands what you are looking to achieve, and ultimately the outcomes that you want to achieve. And then you can't do it in a silo, right? And I know that sounds really super basic, but you can't build a joint sales and marketing plan or an engineering and marketing plan in a silo. You've got to do it in partnership with the business. So with that, I will pause, and Miles, I'll flip it back to you, and we can start taking questions.